I'm here with Jim Hieb from the Natural Stone Institute. We go way back. I don't know how many years now, 20 plus?
20 plus. You know, it's amazing to think we're both, our roots are in the Cleveland market, but oftentimes where we get a chance to see each other is when we're at industry events, trade shows, and I often like the guy or gal across town I see in Verona, I see at major trade shows. But yeah, we both have Cleveland roots.
Yeah, we do. Every once in a while we meet at a fantastic restaurant in downtown Cleveland, and we make sure we get it on the calendar once a year, which is always a pleasure and always a learning experience along the way.
Absolutely, and it's, you know, I'm a transplant to the Cleveland market. Born and raised in South Dakota and came to Ohio to go to grad school and then met my life partner. But your roots are in Cleveland a lot longer, so I've always appreciated any restaurant that you choose is a new experience for me. And anybody that knows the Cleveland market, there is a west side, east side thing, and they are two different communities. And you're on the east side and I'm on the west side, but yeah, it's remarkable to think, John, you know, hats off to you for what you've accomplished in your career, because not only have you been a successful fabricator, but now as a consultant and as one of the leaders at Poseidon Industries, you know, you're now in a position to take that body of experience and like many strong people in our industry, you know, your finance accounting background has certainly helped you in your career, and a lot of your customers, whether they're Poseidon customers or members of the Rockheads or their consulting customers, they've benefited from you. So tip of the hat to you for what you've accomplished.
Thanks, Jim. I appreciate that. I don't know if you know this, but since we're on the Game of Stone podcast, most people don't know Joe Alva and I kind of incubated that. Joe being his primary role as CEO of Poseidon, but he's also a partner in our consulting practice, Kaplan Consulting. And we invented the operating system, Game of Stones, and what we have been sharing with the industry and a lot of great clients that we have out there, our Game of Stones system, which is geared towards collaboration and improving the businesses from the ground floor and some of the foundation of just business processes we've been implementing in the industry. Have you been exposed to any of your members and heard anything about our system?
You know, I think one of the things I will say, and you mentioned, you know, kind of the visionary part of doing podcast. Remember early in your career when you were running a fabrication facility, there were a handful of trade press publications in our industry, and you always waited for the day that arrived in the mail. And with the augment of social media and so forth, you know, there's been a major shift. But the one thing that hasn't shifted is that people want to learn, they want to know more, and they want to soak in and absorb all that they can to have a successful business. So, you know, one of the things that I have heard about and paid attention to is the work that you and Joe are doing. Is you are reaching and touching stone professionals that would not have been touched through a traditional trade publication arriving in the mail. So I'm excited to watch. I have heard about it. And you know, when I look at what you're doing, certainly the trends of people taking notice and the reach that you have, especially into the communities that are not just English speaking. And that's the one thing we have to recognize is we are a global community of stone professionals. And the fact that you are reaching out to Brazilians and Spanish and the Hispanic community and doing things to some extent in multiple language is impressive. I think this is a trend. I think you guys are trendsetters, and it's exciting now as you move into season 2. You've also learned about kind of what people are expecting, what people are looking for. But yes, I have heard about it. Excited to see where it goes. And for our part, you know, being an industry trade association, is how do we ask for your assistance to leverage and communicate all the great resources that we have? Because, you know, if you look at any industry trade association, I don't have 100% of every company that's a member, But the work that we do, and much of the work that we do, is not just for the 2,200 members that are members of our association, but the work we're doing to advocate and set standards truly impacts the entire industry. So appreciate you allowing us to be part of the platform.
Yeah, so one thing that that you mentioned is just the unique diversity of who's in the stone business, and it covers such a big ground, and that's what Joe and I noticed. So we are paying attention to all facets, and with the ability in our company to have consultants that speak multiple languages, or try to remove those barriers, or in our process documentation system, being able to adapt to various languages, specifically in our industry, which is big Spanish and Portuguese and Italian. We have the ability to adapt to that down to the grassroots of the people that are actually putting the stone out into the spaces. So that's exciting for us.
We sometimes forget that we are so interdependent on each other. And it's not just about making resources available in multiple platforms, multiple languages, but also not to pigeon-toe our customers into one segment. You think of somebody as a fabricator. Most fabricators are also installers. They're also doing restoration work. Some of them are also in the distribution community. Some of them are stocking and selling, basic blades and pads and so forth. So always be careful about pigeon-toeing a company into one industry segment. I think we have to look at the industry, and especially the companies that you're serving through your consultative services, that Poseidon is serving, as well as what we do at the association, is we're really dealing with business owners who want to elevate their business to a higher level of success. And that's why surrounding yourself and building relationships with people that can help you be successful is so important. And the work that you and Joe are doing is not just to look at it solely as we're supplying equipment. Okay, there are a lot of equipment and tooling suppliers, but the ultimate goal for any business, whether you're a for-profit business like Poseidon or Kaplan Consulting, or you're a nonprofit trade association, we also have a foundation that supports the industry, is to look at what are the pain points for that company, and specifically that owner, and how can we surround that company with resources to be successful. And I know in your consulting business, there's plenty of times, yes, you're helping guide them through management and process flow and so forth, but how often are you introducing that owner to peers that you have in the industry that run other companies that can help them be successful? So that's really what it's all about.
Yeah, that's a great point. When we get into the grassroots and the foundation of the game of stones, the actual operating system, not just the podcasts that we trying to get out to the marketplace, is we noticed in the industry, and that's why we have both a consulting division and a machine division, because you could put in any machine or type of machine, and if you don't have the leadership, the management, and the accountability, and the foundation of really knowing your numbers, any piece of equipment that you put in is not going to be successful. So we want to assure that when we do put that in the marketplace. So we'll get down to the grassroots. The scariest thing that people don't like to talk about, and I think that's our superpower, is we know the numbers. I've been analyzing, and actually it was really the passion came from a publication that came out a long time ago that the Natural Stone Institute did. I think it was actually the Marble Institute of America.
At that time, yes.
Used to do a financial report, and lining people's numbers and really digging those numbers to get to the true what those real numbers are is very challenging. And I wouldn't say we've cracked the code, but we're a lot closer. So we've been analyzing these numbers and using it with our client, and using that data to drive profitability. And that's been exciting as we roll this off to whether you're a big, large company, 10 million in excess, or if you're a small company, two men in a truck. You need to know your numbers.
You know, and you look at leadership as a general, let's talk about leadership for a minute. Many people in our industry are innovators, they're outstanding craftsmen, and they run their businesses on a lot of gut intuition, a lot of experience, and that's fine. You know, if you want to be successful as a business leader, you need to be in a position to make a decision not having 90% of the data.
Yep.
But those that are able to take their business to the next level, get into the weeds of the data, and that is why, you know, some of the work that you do personally and others in the industry do is anytime you can make a business decision surrounded about data, that's just the icing on the cake.
Yeah, and data's great. And we spend a lot of time mining data, and there's more systems coming out better and better to get at that data, which makes our job a lot easier. But then it's actually using that data to execute. And we like to say, you know, at Kaplan Consulting in Poseidon, is that a lot of consultants, they'll give advice, but we're there by your side to help execute on that advice.
You know, you can know what to do, but it's the execution of what to do.
Yep.
And all too often, you know, and I've thought about my own career. You know, early in my career, a little more uneasy about pulling the trigger, making a tough decision. But when you have the data and with a little maturity and coaching and mentoring, you know, and I like to think that, you know, any business should not just surround themselves with outstanding partners that sell equipment or offering consultative advices, but you want that partner to also, you know, if you embrace them as a mentor, and if you're both looking at the success, and, you know, we want, you know, Jon, you want to win for your business, you want them to win, but when you add that third win-win-win, and you build that relationship that you're not just there to sell the service, but you're there to walk them through it and be a resource. You know, I look at the work that we do at the association. Have I hired consultants to help us with strategic plans and different things in our business? Of course I have. The most successful consultants I've ever worked with are the ones that I developed a personal relationship with, in the long run became a friend. Okay, don't get me wrong, being a friend and being a business partner are two different things, but when you can combine those two together, that's been the most successful consultants that we've used, and I'm using one today for our strategic plan and some of the work that we're doing to expand the outreach for the Natural Stone Institute. But guess what? I was first introduced to this individual 25 years ago. He was running a trade association. I watched his career, he watched mine, we became friends. And then when he became a consultant, that was just a good fit. And I know that's a lot of what you're doing too, is not just offering your services, but truly, genuinely getting into the weeds, caring about them, understanding their employee problems. The biggest challenge I've had as a professional in the industry is knowing that it's okay for me to acknowledge what I'm not good at or things our organization is struggling with. When I've done that, man, floodgates open up of board members and friends like you and so forth that have offered me advice that, man, so, you know, anytime I'm talking with anybody about our association, I say to our members, I say to the business owners, you know, the day you think you know everything is the day you've already started to slip back. The day that you're willing to open up and say, I'm not good at this, I need help with this, that's going to grow your business.
Yeah, that's great advice out there. So as we've been working together and a lot of my clients, it's about knowing where to go for resources. Yeah. And also you talk about collaboration. There's a lot of resources that I've introduced my clients to that I draw from the Natural Stone Institute. So I want to thank you.
You bet.
Why don't you explain some of those resources that we've worked together, the mentorship programs that you have out there, the ability to grow your sales with some of the tools, and
absolutely
continuing education. Maybe we can expand on that, because I think that will help both of our mutual clients.
Absolutely. So, you know, if I see somebody at a trade show or they call the office and they say, hey, I've been aware about the Natural Stone Institute, and I know, yeah, it used to be the Marble Institute or the Building Stone Institute, but what's in it for me? The first part, I always want to say is, tell me about you. What are your pain points in business? And once I understand that, then I can say, we're in the business of helping you keep your employees safe, build deeper relationships with kitchen and bath designers, architects, interior designers. We're in the business of helping you meet cool people. We have great relationships. You're an owner of the Rockheads. The Rockheads are all about elevating fabricators, particularly the premier fabricators that are of a certain size. In our membership, it's 10 segments. It's everybody from the quarrier that takes the stone out of the ground all the way through the supply chain to companies like Poseidon, like you as a consultant, to the restoration guys. So, you want to keep your employees safe. Ain't anybody that's got more safety training resources available in English and Spanish. I love the standpoint of growing your sales, growing your business. You want to, just like you want to have outstanding relationships with fabricators, our members want to have outstanding relationships with their customers, the designers and all that. So we've got great tools to introduce them. Everybody in the A&D community, they need to have credentials and CEU programs, continuing education. I think most of us are familiar with that phrase. So we offer to our members the ability to let them be the good guys. Last year, we educated over 10,000 architects and designers. That wasn't Jim Hieb going out and giving all these presentations. We train our members on how to do that, and then they get to be the good guys. Who doesn't want to be the local expert in their market about our industry? We give them the tools to help them do that, and I'm really excited. And in 2026, we're on a fast track to not only help our members do education for architects and designers in their facilities, but also to be able to do it at chapter events.
Do you have any fabricators that are using it? Maybe a success story on how they grew their business using some of these tools?
Absolutely, we do. And it starts by first identifying someone in your company that's not afraid to walk in a room where they don't know anybody. Okay.
Right.
But yes, we do have success stories. Fabricators, installers who annually host an event at their facility. They bring in 50 to 100 architects and designers, nice wine and cheese party, tour their facility. Every once in a while they may do a 101 class on what's the hot quartzites coming out of Brazil or whatnot. But it does, and it's about those relationships. Designers are focused on a lot more than just stone products. So they may know a little bit about it. They're looking for the relationship of an expert. And those are the tools that we have. At a recent event, industry event, I had 3 or 4 of our members stand up and say how our CEU program helped them grow their business. It's not complicated. It's not that expensive. And it's really turnkey. We handle all the paperwork. And fabricators have the capacity to do this on their own. But we say we do it for 5% of the cost if they had to do it on their own. They have all the resources, and we handle all the paperwork. So it's an easy button.
Yeah, when you become a trusted authority in your space, and you bring other resources that show that you're well networked and you're researched and you're furthering the business and the industry you're in, it comes back to you tenfold. And that's what I've noticed working with my clients and trying to get these programs when they're trying to grow their sales, because typically the problems that you're trying to attack in your business bounce from sales, operations, and finance. And so you can almost combine 2 of those at the same time, the sales and the operations, by using those tools out there and then educating your client, and it comes back to you just by being there. Half the battle is showing up, and then those relationships get introduced some projects.
And I often, while extremely proud of the body of work that we've created over the years for safety training, whether it's material handling or OSHA compliance or the hot topic now of Silica. But people need to understand that it's not just training at their fingertips, but it is an employee retention tool. It's hard enough alone to find and recruit employees in the trades. But when you can show your employees that you truly care about them, we're doing this training because I want you to be safe. I want you to go home every night. I want you to be healthy, to be able to be a Little League coach and to attend, school music programs and so forth. We want you to be successful as an employee. And one of the values that we have at our company is that we invest in your safety. And so I really encourage, owners of facilities that utilize our safety training to also leverage it as an employee retention tool and to proudly say, we're doing this because we care about you. And that message sometimes gets overlooked. I know it's caught up in the middle of everything, but you have to look at how you use the resources of your trade association as an investment in your people. We do education all over the world at trade shows. And so when a fabrication shop owner invests to take a junior executive or an up and coming rising star in the warehouse or in the facility and bring them to a trade show or an education, it's an investment in them. And I think that's something we need to talk more about.
So the other thing that we were talking a little bit earlier about was the collaboration aspect and how important that is in the industry. And you're wearing a pin on your shirt, I see there.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that, the program that's really evolved and taken off, the Women in Stone.
Yep, absolutely. And so I will tell you, one of our most widely attended educational sessions that we do at one of the major trade shows is all about family business. And you get, similar to a stage like this, you get 4 or 5 owners, spouses, wives, or whatever, talk about family business. We're in an industry of family business. And so 12 years ago, we were having a discussion about what do we need to do for the future of the industry? And there were 2 discussions. We probably should have done both, but we did one. Is do we launch a 30 under 30 type networking, young industry professionals, or do we recognize that we're such a strong family business focused industry and do something for the females in our industry? So we launched Women in Stone. They do networking events all year round, virtually and in person, but they have a mentorship program. And anybody that's watching this podcast, don't get confused by the name Women in Stone, because that mentorship program is open to men and women. But if you have somebody on your staff that you're proud of and is up and coming, and you want to give them some mentoring opportunities outside of your own staff, that's a program. We pair up a seasoned person in the industry with somebody that wants to go through the mentorship program. So our mentors are males and females. Our mentees are males and females. But we kick that program off every February right after Stone Expo. And so I would strongly encourage anybody in the industry, if you have female executives on your staff, either in ownership or at other levels of the organization, sign up for the Women in Stone program, take advantage of the mentoring opportunities. And we also have scholarships to send people to major trade shows. We have a scholarship program through Women in Stone and also a Natural Stone scholarship funded by our foundation.
So I'm a numbers guy.
Mm-hmm.
Give me some numbers.
Yep.
How many participants did we have in last year?
Sure. So let me just talk numbers around some of the things that we've already talked about. We have 10,000 architects and designers that are using our CEU program.
Okay.
That is coming from about 400 trained speakers from 125 companies.
Wow.
Imagine if we could grow that to 200 companies or 250 companies. And remember, this program is important to our mission. We want people to understand more about natural stone, but this program is truly about putting you as a business owner front and center in front of people. So 10,000 architects and designers,
that's a big
400 trained speakers, 125 companies. Imagine if all the Rockhead members were utilizing it, what we could accomplish. Imagine if all the Poseidon customers did it, what we could accomplish. When we get into the Women in Stone program, we're right now somewhere between 75 to 125 mentees being trained every year. That's all scalable. It's scalable. And if we get companies behind this, the more mentors that we have, the more mentees we have. And there's probably not a person watching this podcast, in season 2 that couldn't benefit from that. When we talk about the safety training that we're doing, especially in the last 2 years, we're just shy of 10,000 employees that have benefited from that program. So we're proud of that. The other number, as a numbers guy, that I like to say is, if you are attending Stone Expo, if you are attending coverings, if you are attending Marmomac, we always host a networking reception. And the numbers for those respectively are 450, 200 industry professionals showing up at those events. That is where you get connected with people. My tenure in the industry, I have a lot of staff members that have been with us more than 15 years. We have board members that are there. But John, if you walk in the room and you say to me, hey Jim, is anybody from XYZ company here? I've never met them, I'd like to meet them. That's what those networking events are all about. And I know that's what you try to foster at the Rockhead events. Yep. When you have the Poseidon experience that you host periodically, it's all about connecting people. And I think we're wrong to say, I want to meet a fabricator, I want to meet a distributor, I want to meet equipment. I think the message is, I want to meet other people that are like-minded like me, that want to drive success in their company and are not afraid or they're not afraid to share their experiences. John, I remember fondly, a conversation you and I had a few years ago, and I heard some feedback I didn't want to hear. You know what? That made me a better person. And that shifted how I look at certain relationships in this industry. And, but those are some of the numbers. Do I have other numbers? Yeah. I'm proud to say that we now have over 200 companies utilizing our testing lab. And while most people say, well, why would I ever want to test stone? If you're involved in a commercial project, that architect or GC is going to mandate that stone be tested to make sure it's applicable for our industry. And that is a resource we didn't have 5 years ago. We have it today.
Yeah.
We're projected in 2 or 3 years to have annual sales of $1 million through our testing lab. What's that mean to a countertop fabricator? What that means is, we're bringing revenue into the association that's going to further help us expand our outreach for all of our members. So proud of that.
Those are amazing numbers. Those are all surprises to me that those numbers are that big. So congratulations on your success.
Thanks.
With that. One of the challenges that I have in each of the businesses that I'm currently involved in, being the president of Poseidon, running Kaplan Consulting, partner in the Rockhead Group, the theme around it is all collaboration. And so one of the challenges that we all have, and it sounds like you have from what you were just sharing with us, is that you have competitors all in the same room at the same time. And some embrace that collaboration and don't feel threatened by that, and some do.
Right.
And that's the challenge I have. I bring my clients that I'm sharing, and some cross over into markets, and they're protective of that. Rockheads especially is a collaboration group, and as our group grows, you're going to have crossover in competition or customers that each are vying for. Poseidon, we have events with customers with our equipment, all in the same market, and they're sharing best practices. But trying to grow those organizations, but fear of sharing information. What's your opinion? Maybe you can give some advice on how to manage through that.
Yeah, that competitive nature that we all have in us. Okay, did you play sports in school?
Absolutely. I played baseball, and I was on the, well, one is an individual sport, but I was on the golf team as well.
You know, I was having this conversation with our HR manager via text this morning. You can tell business people that we're in competitive sports or competitive music. You know, that team concept, that collaboration that happens through marching bands and, you know, baseball and basketball, football, track for me. But, you know, the collaboration thing is hard. You're never going to have a room full of people that think the same way. But I think we've all learned somewhat through experience that the more we share and are willing to share, all boats rise through that. And will I maybe, on my end, lose a member because they found out we gave some safety training available for free? Yeah, I'm going to lose members because of some of the advocacy that we do. And I think, you know, you have to kind of get beyond that and say it's okay to share. And don't get me wrong, there's trade secrets, there's manufacturing processes, there's things that, you know, is quote unquote, you know, one of our mutual friends, the secret sauce, okay? But the more we share, the more we collaborate, the more successful we will be. Back in the day when we started doing regional training all over the United States, we wanted to do 2-day events, and the first day would be, we'd go visit fabrication shops. You know, I was turned down more. I don't want any other fabricators in my facility. I don't want them to see it. Yep. That has changed dramatically in our industry. The other thing that's changed dramatically is the use of consultative services from OSHA. They've got a free service. You can invite them in to come see your facility. It's all free. They will do air monitoring and hearing testing for free. Now, if they find violations, they're not going to fine you, but they're going to expect you to fix them, and they're going to come back. Years ago, I don't want government in my business. I think the whole business culture is embracing more of sharing consultative services and so forth. And you know, I can't change everyone, but I do want to surround myself with people that are in the sharing mode, because that is so necessary. If any one of us thinks that we're perfect and has all the answers, we don't. And it does test your patience sometimes. You know, John, you're doing some consulting at a trade show or whatever. They're getting your advice and counsel, and they didn't pay a dime for it. But who was sitting in that room that said, hey, that Jon Kaplan knows what he's talking about. I want to get his number. And so sometimes those hidden gems come out when we least expect it. I tell my staff all the time, how many of us have been at a trade show, the last day of the show, things are dragging, most people have flown home, the show ends at 5 o'clock, hey, let's start tearing down our booth at 3. No, because that one person may walk in the room that becomes a business partner, friend for life. I think we've had those experiences. I'm sure you've had those experiences. But I just think as a general rule, you know, people need to embrace collaboration. They need to embrace. And, you know, you talk about the work you're doing with Game of Stones and how you are reaching, in some respects, a whole new audience. You're reaching potentially underserved components of our industry. The same applies to me, okay? We went out this year, we've hired a marketing firm. We're looking at how we tell our story, and we're looking at it's okay to get out of your comfort zone and try new things. Has Game of Stones version 2, is it different from version 1? Absolutely, because you have learned from that experience. We as business leaders, whether it's nonprofit, for-profit, or whatnot, we need to be comfortable in our skin to say, we don't know it all. There are other people that know a lot, and you want to surround yourselves with people that can help you be successful. And in the for-profit arm that you're in, you're thinking the same thing. And yes, do we need to be concerned about the bottom line? Yes. Do we want to reward our employees? Yes. Do we want to return some of the investment to the stakeholders? Absolutely. But the more we become close-knit and not of a collaborative nature, then we are just cutting off ourselves. There's greater potential in collaboration to turn a profit, greater opportunities in collaboration to grow our people, greater opportunities to grow the success of our companies when we collaborate.
Jim, well put, and we want to thank you for supporting our our system, our podcast. The collaboration that we have has been great. We're all vying for each of our customers' time, and it's been great collaborating with you. And thank you for coming in and supporting us in this podcast.
Thanks for our friendship, John. Appreciate you.